G'day, freedom lovers. How are we all today? I hope you're better than I am. The kids have finally defeated me. It took a week of snotting all over me. I had to go change my shirt before because it was covered in snot. It was a wonderful sight to be seen. And yeah, the immune system collapsed. So you'll have to forgive the croakiness, the snotty nose. I will be blowing my nose. I will be coughing. It will be horrible, but you're all at a safe distance, so it's all right. So let's have a quick look through, that's a lot of people coming through. That's good to see. I'll quickly point out that Patreons, 3 new videos came up this week. Even though I was sick, feeling crap, I got kids crying and snotting all over me, I still managed to produce some content for you guys. So yeah, anybody who wants to jump in on the Patreon thing, there's some more videos there, and there will be more to come. And of course, like Patreons, drop me a line, let me know what you guys would like to see. We'll get some special content delivery just for you guys. So hey, Clark, how are you, mate? I'll go put my mask on. Nice work, man. It'll keep you safe, those masks. Nothing better. Advice from the UN. How could you go wrong? How could you go wrong? Hey, Wayne, how are you, mate? So it's been a little bit coming. We did a bit of a promo video a few weeks ago, or last week. Hope you guys seen it. Yes, Batty is sick. Where's my mask? Quick, get that mask. It'll keep you safe. Definitely. And make sure you line up for 22 COVID shots as well. They'll definitely keep you safe, So I hope everybody did their homework. If you haven't done your homework and checked out the previous videos with Len, g'day Eric, how are you, mate? The links are in the description there. So by all means, go and check that stuff out. The huge presentation there, particularly that first video, which was shot here in Townsville, where Len's just rolled this stuff off the top of his head. It was an amazing presentation. I highly recommend you see it if you haven't seen it already. We're going to take that a little bit further. Without further ado, I'm going to bring Len Harris in. How are you, Len?
I sound and look a little bit better than you do. So.
That's for sure, man. That's for sure.
Yeah. Although I've worked out in a little bit over 8 days, I've driven over 6,000 kilometres. So, yeah.
Wow.
The body's here. The brain will arrive later on.
Let's hope it arrives in time to get to the end of the show then, man.
Yeah. Most definitely.
Len, when we caught up, a while back, you gave us an amazing presentation about how the Queensland government in particular has digitized our title deeds, and we have absolutely no idea who's actually controlling or running these elements, and you were in the midst of taking them to court, and you ended up cease and desisting. What's the proper term for that? You cancelled the case?
Well, no, actually, I was advised by some very costly solicitors, as they always are, that it wasn't just the Queensland government that had cancelled all title documents. In actuality, the process had gone right around the whole of Australia.
Wow.
And the danger would be that if I'd have continued with that action against the Queensland government, and it's like I'd be playing in their sandpit. They own the judge. The Queensland government does. They pay them, so they're not going to bite the hand that feeds them. So the advice was no, better to withdraw out of that. Otherwise, if I lost that case, that would set a precedent that would stop anybody else right throughout the whole of Australia challenging their state government.
Right.
So it was sound advice, but cost $30,000 to do that. Yes. Anyhow, so like everybody else, we're resilient. We rebound. during that 18 months that that case was actually active, that was when I realised it wasn't a mistake. The government's greatest asset is our lack of knowledge. Had I have known the extent that that process had been created, well, then I would have approached it more like we're approaching it now.
Right.
And
And how are we approaching it now? Like, what's this?
Right.
Where does this leave us?
it leaves us in a better position, strangely, because the information that I've been able to accrue over the last 2 years puts us, we the people, in a much stronger position. And the reason being that all of the governments, each state right around Australia, including the Northern Territory, and the last few days I've actually been in Canberra, working there, and I'm actually talking to you now from Melbourne.
Oh, wow.
So, yes, the reason I'm in Melbourne is there is a world conference on the World Health Organization in their attempt to take over control worldwide in relation to pandemics. And so that will be discussed tomorrow around about 2 o'clock. Sadly, I'll try in the morning, Batty, to get you a link to that, so that any of your people who would like to log in, there will be a small fee to do that, and that's to help with bringing some of the overseas experts that will be speaking tomorrow. But that's tomorrow's task. So once I realised that the system actually started with Barry O'Farrell, who was a Liberal Premier of New South Wales, copied an act that had been put through the Canadian Parliament in 2000. And right up front, I need to say to everybody, I do not give legal advice, right? Any advice that, or any information, I should say, that I share with you tonight is all in the open arena. In other words, it's based on state governments' legislations, on non-government organisations, things that they have done. So Barry O'Farrell copied this Canadian electronic lodgement legislation, passed it through New South Wales Parliament, and then took it to an entity that is called COAG. So COAG, it was the Coalition of Australian Governments. There's no...
That sounds really dicey.
Yeah, there's no constitutional power to establish COAG, and there is no even state legislation to underpin what COAG was. I say was.
Is there like a website for that?
No.
No? So they don't even... No. How did you come across this?
By doing a lot of research, and the modern version, we used to humorously say, "Oh, this certain document fell off the back of a truck." Well, the modern version of that is I would receive an email through an IPO, so I have no idea where it come from, and so it would just say either Len or Send Len, which is basic handle on electronics. You need to have a look at this, and there would be the information.
So you had like a fairy godmother sort of popping this information into your email.
Yes.
Wow.
And obviously, you have to actually do some work and check out the authenticity. So, well, that one was easy because it was 2012 when the New South Wales government passed the electronic lodgement legislation. Took it to COAG. It took 12 months for 75% of the states to say, yes, this is a good idea. And the way COAG was structured from its inception was that once 75% of the states agreed on something, the other 25 were bound by it. So, unfortunately, at that time, there was 4 state Labor governments and 3 Conservatives.
Yeah.
Well, 75% of the 7 is more than the 4 Labor ones. However, Barry O'Farrell, who was proposing it, was Liberal. So it was 5-2. There's the 75%. And everybody is then bound. And the difficult thing to do or to understand is that this was done by the premiers individually themselves.
Oh my God.
They hadn't passed legislation through their parliaments to say they would adopt the New South Wales Act. They summarily just made that decision themselves. So what we have now...
I actually just found the website. They've actually got a website, coag.gov.au, but it takes you to federation.gov.au.
Yeah.
I'll bring it up. Have a look at this.
Yeah. So,
so that's the website.
As I said, yeah, by 2013, all of the premiers of the states had agreed that they would adopt the New South Wales legislation. So the interesting thing is that in Queensland, Victoria, South Australia, Western Australia, and Tasmania, all of their electronic transactions now are actually controlled and run by an entity that they have no control over. It's absolutely ridiculous.
Wow. They've even got a Wikipedia.
Yeah.
Wonderful picture of Turncoat.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a list of membership.
Yep. It's absolutely unbelievable that each of the state parliaments and the 2 territories then agreed that they have totally devoided themselves of the responsibility of land transactions within their state. Now, the next thing that Queensland did was, in actuality, they ceased actually recording mortgages in relation to purchasing of land. And it's my understanding that the only entity that derived a benefit from that was the banks, because the banks have, for quite a long time, been parcelling packages of mortgages up, and through a trust that the banks control, funnel those contracts through the trusts and sell them on the open world market. And effectively, at law, that places that contract in some doubt, because it's an equitable contract that they speak of has to be a balance between two parties. Well, when one party sells off their part of that equitable mortgage, where does it leave the other person? It leaves the other person paying somebody that they never ever even contracted with. But they still have to continue to pay the payments.
This is nuts, man.
Yeah, yes, it is. So once COAG had decided that they would follow the electronic lodgement route, then they created the first entity, and that is ARNEC. And ARNEC is an association of registrars. Now, the registrar plays a pivotal point in the process of sale of land. We always had in the titles office the head person in that, who was responsible for that entire process, was the registrar, and they were a public servant and were also subject to all of the statutory laws of the relevant state. Well, the registrars that are being spoken. No, you're right. The registrars that are spoken of in the electronic lodgement process are all employees of companies.
And what kind of companies are we talking about here? Like financial institutions, I'm guessing?
No, they are entities who have actually purchased what used to be the titles office. Now that raises instantly a problem, because when the titles offices were all statutory bodies, yourself and myself and everybody else had a right to walk in to their open door and say, I would like to see a copy of the registration of my land in my name. Or we could also apply for a freedom of information, an FOI, on our file that was held by the registrar. The moment the titles office were sold, and Queensland was different. Queensland actually passed an act of parliament that created a company, and that company has an ABN, and so now nobody in Queensland can take out an FOI on their file that is held by the registrar, because you can't. Yeah, you can't affect a freedom of information request on a corporate entity.
Oh,
so, and
the other states haven't done it like that?
Well, in actuality, a lot of them are worse. South Australia actually sold off, supposedly, or I should say purported to have sold their titles office for $6.18 billion
To who?
to a private company.
And we don't know what that company is.
Yes, they do in South Australia. But the interesting thing is, who has actually parted with $8.16 billion to store the details of every parcel of land in South Australia? What company would pay out that amount of money without knowing that they were going to get a return for the stockholders?
Yeah.
And that's a worrying point. The only thing, and again, I remind people that this is not legal advice. The only example that I can give to people was that if we cast our mind back to when we purchased our first computers, we went off and we bought a computer in a box, and then we went along to Microsoft and said, well, I'll buy a Microsoft product, load it on the computer, and then we own both the computer and the program.
Yeah.
That does not happen today. You go into any electronic store and buy a computer, they come already with, in Microsoft's situation, the program is already loaded on that computer, and you pay a monthly fee. Currently, it's $14.99. So no prizes for guessing how I know that.
Yeah.
Each month, $14.99 disappears out of my bank account and goes to Microsoft. So that's and there is a term for it. It's called monetarizing the asset. Yeah. Well, in South Australia, the asset is the $8.16 billion that they invested to buy the titles office. They need to get a return on it. Now, that may not be or turn out to ever be the actual situation, but I can't see of any way of that company getting a return on the $8.16 billion. Now, Victoria, they weren't quite as fortunate. They only got 2-point-something billion for theirs. And the same entity that purchased the Victorian titles office also purchased the New South Wales titles office for approximately 2-point-something billion as well. So what's actually happened is if you imagine you've got the people, and we'll talk about New South Wales for the exercise. You've got people sitting in the lower house, people sitting in the upper house. Those members of the New South Wales government who are there supposedly to protect the rights and privileges of the New South Wales people, they are the ones who agreed to actually destroy their title documents and leave them without proof of ownership. But they also did it on their own properties.
Why would you do that? That's the thing. It's self-destructive.
Yeah, but it just does not make sense. that they would actually vote on a bill that would destroy their own title documents. But they've all done it. Queensland's done it, everyone. So the order that this occurred in is quite interesting. So following the COAG meeting, where they all agreed then to introduce the electronic lodgement, knowing full well at the end of that process there would be no title documents.
Yeah.
So Victoria was first cab. They actually commenced electronic lodgement in 2016. South Australia commenced in 2017. Queensland cancelled our title deeds in 2019. New South Wales cancelled theirs in 2021.
Sorry.
You're right. I'll give you time to blow your snoz. Yeah. So New South Wales in 2021, Western Australia in 2023, and Tasmania is sort of in a wishy-washy area. They partly commenced the process in 22. And I think that was a conscious decision of each of the states in collusion with each other, that they didn't cancel them all at the same time. Because had they have done that, then the probability of the whole thing coming out and becoming normal knowledge of what the governments had done would have been, quite catastrophic for them. There may have been a few governments thrown out, which there should have been.
Definitely.
So by staging it, that was far less likely. So back to COAG. So they created now if you do a quick search for an entity called ARNECC, ARNECC.
ARNECC.
Yeah. The association, yeah.
Got it.
So if you pull that up, that's the animal that actually
National
controls
Council.
Yes, the National Registrar's Council. So they were established by COAG. So we've got an entity that has no constitutional standing, has no statutory standing. It becomes an entity that totally controls all land transactions throughout the whole of Australia. It just begs the mind, why have all of the parliaments whose duty is to protect the rights and the property of the people within their state, have just totally turned their back on that process, on their parliamentary process, and turned to these entities that I call an IT, because they're not even an NGO, a non-government organisation. They are an IT. There is nothing. There is no control over them, and as we can see, they then, so ARNECC, once established, then created the electronic conveyancing national law. So we have an entity that has no underpinning and is not subject to any ballot process, they are making laws. And I have in my hand the Queensland Electronic Conveyancing National Law, Queensland 2013. So Queensland had that long before they brought in the legislation to cancel our titles.
Wow, this is, yeah.
So then, Queensland then.
Magpie 129 here says, Len, I have my titles deeds in my hot little hands because of you. I saw the warnings years ago and acted quickly. I live in Victoria. But even though he's got that title deed, it's considered a historical document. Isn't that correct?
That's correct.
I hate to burst your balloon there, Magpie.
Yeah, they actually have the audacity to tell people to actually have them framed and hung on the wall as a historical article.
Yeah.
So Queensland then, having brought in the electronic conveyancing national law, then in 2021, Queensland passed an Act of Parliament called the Queensland Futures Fund, brackets, Title Registry Act 2021. Now, in this animal, it gets even worse. The actual act itself, and I'm actually reading from it.
Is that one of the ones you sent me?
Yes.
So what was that called again?
I'll
bring it up.
Yeah, Queensland Future Fund Titles Registry Act 2021.
I don't have that.
Right. Okay. Now, previously,
was that? I think you might have mentioned that in your first video. Come to think of it.
Yeah.
All right. Let's see if I'll find the files from back then.
Yeah. So, and this is as a result of our wonderful Wayne Goss in 1992. He passed an act called the Reprints Act 1992. I forgot, although I'm assuming you're recording this,
Yes, this is
okay.
It's going live to multiple channels, and yeah, I'll be able to download it at the end.
Yes, and this will be able to be put up, because otherwise there is so much information that I sort of exchange with everyone that people would never be able to keep up trying to write it. So it's good that there will be a recording of this, and they can go back and run through it and through it and through it and say, well, did he really say that? Well, yes, he did. So
what was that act again? Sorry.
This one is one that Wayne Goss passed a long time before. It's called the Reprints Act 1992, Queensland. And in it purports that the government can, for the purpose of minor corrections in an act, they can actually send an act off to the printer.
Is that this one here?
No, that's no. Yeah, that was hang on, I do have it here.
Land and explosives and other.
That's the one that cancelled everything.
Yeah.
The one that you
Reprints Act 1992. There it is. I knew I had it here somewhere.
Yes. Yeah. But it was, and I do have it in my file here. I thought I had it out, but I didn't. My apologies.
Do we remember what the section was?
The Reprints Act. Yeah.
Which one are we looking for?
The section that we're looking for is Section 8, editorial changes not to change the effect. So Section 7 allows them to do editorial changes in a reprint of a law. The text of the law may be given using citations and references permitted by Division 2. So what they're saying is if there is a full stop or a dot or a comma somewhere or a misspelt in it, that's in Section 9, that can be printed. That can be corrected.
Part 9? Section 9, not Part 9, is it?
No, Section 9, yeah.
All right. Search.
So we're in the Reprints Act.
Yep.
Okay. Section 9 is how it should be used, and that's for correcting minor.
Division 2, divisions.
It's on page 8, if that helps, Patty.
Page 8. Yep, that should be Part 2, Part 3. So, like, editorial changes. That one.
Yes. Yeah.
Cool.
So then sorry, my apologies. I'm back to the front. It's 7 that sets out what they can change, but 8 is the one that's important because that Section 7 does not permit changes to the text of a provision of a law that would change the effect of the privileges of the provision. Yeah. So the reason I'm raising that is that as part of the electronic lodgement, the Queensland government in 2021 passed a law called the Queensland Futures Fund, and in brackets, Titles Registry Act 2021. So if you can pull that up.
Which one was that one? Sorry.
Queensland.
If anyone in the background is listening, if somebody can run the comments for me, Tyler, if you're around, that'd be good. Sorry, I'm just calling out for some people in the other room to maybe help us out a bit because we've got a lot to sort of go through. What was I looking for again? Sorry.
Yeah, Queensland Future Fund. That should be enough to bring it up. Titles Registry Act 2021. Okay. Now, having just gone through the Reprints Act, right, and again, I am of the opinion that this act was never debated in the Parliament.
Right.
Because previously the act was the Debt Reduction Savings Act. So I believe that they took an existing act, but instead of only making minor changes to it, they have actually created a new act through it. And that's the Queensland Futures Fund Titles Registry Act.
Which goes against this section here.
Yes, correct. Yes, Section 8.
Wow. So they've completely broken the law to create a whole new fucking law.
Yes, minus the expletive. Sorry.
Yeah, I couldn't help it.
Yes. So this act actually creates a corporate entity. So if we go to Section 3, the main purpose of this act and how it will be achieved. The main purpose of this act is to support the state's contribution to the Queensland Futures Debt Retirement Fund. So that's the one that they've altered, established under the Queensland Futures Fund Act 2020. So it actually creates a corporate entity called the Queensland Titles Proprietary Limited. So that's over the page, part 2, section 7.
Yep.
Okay. So declaration of the operator. Queensland Titles Registry Proprietary Limited, ACN 648 568 101, is declared to be the operator for this Act. And then it goes on the functions. That's to perform the titles registry functions delegated to the operator. The operator, then 9 is the constitution. Where it gets really interesting is part 3, and that's on page 9.
Yep. Part 3.
Okay. So the title registry amounts, and this affects every land transfer in Queensland. So for every sale, this company that we just read out before, the Queensland Titles Registry Proprietary Limited, right, is entitled to collect and keep. Now, if the purpose of it is for this entity to pay down Queensland's debt, how can they do that? Where in Division 1 it says entitlement to collect and keep the following. Amounts the operator may collect and keep. The operator is entitled to collect and keep the following amounts, each a state registry amount, a title registry fee, fees and charges applying under agreement under the Land Act or the Land Titles Act. And then over the page, the title registry amount, A, does not form part of consolidated fund.
What does that mean?
It means that the fees don't go into the government's coffer to provide services for the Queensland people. The company that the Act itself created, right?
Yep.
The Queensland Titles Registry Proprietary Limited. The operator may collect and keep the following fees. The title registry amounts do not form part of the consolidated fund and is a debt owing to the operator.
Wow.
It is just unbelievable. And a little bit further through, it tells us that the fees are all subject to CPI, so that it's going to actually continue.
Yeah.
Probably the worst part of the Act, and I suggest to people they can pull it up and have a read through it.
Yeah, it's all easy to find this stuff because I found it just by doing Google searches. You know?
Yes.
Well, DuckDuckGo actually. I don't use Google, but
yeah.
Just punch in the names of these acts. You know, so Queensland Future Fund Act 2021, it'll come up.
Now, if we go to part 4, and that's on page 14. This is excellent because people are actually seeing how a parliament works and we need people sitting back, like they've got to be masochists, the same as myself, to read all of this and actually realise what the government is doing. Who in their right mind would ever consider that the Queensland government would use an act of parliament to create a corporate entity and then give that corporate entity as we said earlier on, the Queensland Titles Registry Proprietary Limited, the right to collect the fees and keep them.
Yeah.
It's there.
It's madness. I mean, and how's the government supposed to make any money? Any wonder they're running broke and taxing the shit out of us.
Yes, yes. So in part 4, transfer of assets and liabilities and other matters.
Yep.
And this even I couldn't comprehend this. Like, I understood it, but have they really done that? Now, the minister may decide arrangements. The minister may decide the arrangements that are to apply as the state and the operator to help achieve the main purpose of the Act through the performance of the operator functioning mentioned in Section 1. That's the Titles Registry. The minister, in the first 12 months, can actually transfer state assets into this corporate entity. So it's Section 20, transfer notice. For the purpose of an arrangement under Section 19, the minister may, by gazette, notice a transfer notice to do any of the following: transfer shares in the operator to a state entity. So he actually transferred a number of shares in an entity that governs the government has private trains. And not only do they operate in Queensland, they also operate in Western Australia as well. So the minister, I used to know the numbers of this. I haven't done this for quite a while. But he also transferred $8 billion into this fund as well. And then on the top of it, he then transferred the public servants out of the titles office into employment by the company itself. But he was gracious enough to allow them, like they didn't have any say in that. If they worked for the titles office one day, the next day they were working for Titles Registry Proprietary Limited. No say in it. But he did allow them within the first 12 months to actually transfer back as a public servant to where, I don't know. So that's the Queensland Futures Fund. And so then
I'm tagging guys, so
yeah, so this has happened in various stages, and in some states different processes, but the end result is that nobody now, as we're talking tonight, throughout the entire Australian Commonwealth, have any legal documents to prove they own their homes. And we have all of these corporate private entities now who are running what should be government departments.
Mm. Wow. That's pretty full on shit.
Yes, yeah. So just we've gone through ARNEC, that's the Australian Register's National Electronic Conveyancing Council.
Yep.
ARNEC themselves then created the Electronic Lodgement Network. That's the actual physical internet programs that carry out all of the transfers. I mentioned it earlier on, the Electronic Conveyancing National Law.
Mm-hmm.
And then the last one they created was the Electronic Lodgement Network Operators. They're called ELNOs. They're the private companies that when a person purchases a property, they then, the conveyancer has to have the ability to log on to one of the Electronic Lodgement Network Operators systems. So when a person goes in to purchase a property, they have to sign an agreement, say it's a real estate agent. They have to sign a document that legally allows one of the real estate officer's people to lodge their application to either of the Electronic Lodgement Network Operators. One is PEXA, PEXA, and the other one is simply Australia. And they actually operate as just the single word simply. So the person who used to just sign a contract, yes, they still sign a contract, but that contract isn't what is actually lodged on the electronic database. It's the document, and the reason for it is you and I and the rest of everyone in Queensland don't have a digital signature that at law is recognised by PEXA or simply Australia.
Right.
So you're relying on somebody else having a digital signature to lodge that for you.
Do you think they're going to try and tie this digital ID into that and say, well, in order to prove that you own your home, you need your own digital ID?
Well, I haven't heard any mention of it, but it wouldn't be beyond their capacity to do it, to force people to have a digital signature. So that's basically what has happened since we spoke last time. So to capture that up, all of the states and territories all adopted the New South Wales legislation. So in Queensland, we have a piece of New South Wales legislation that is controlling the sale of properties in Queensland.
Yeah.
You know, duh. And Queensland can't alter that legislation. The Queensland government itself cannot alter that act without the entire COAG group agreeing, because everybody has to accept the same amendment.
Yeah.
Now, in and I've forgotten the year. Goodness me, my apologies to everybody. Malcolm Turnbull morphed COAG into what we now know is the National Cabinet.
Yeah.
And and his reason for doing that, I believe, was so that he could claim that it was a quasi federal government entity when it isn't, clearly, and then embargo all of the actions of the national cabinet for 30 years. Place them under an embargo. Well, that lasted about 15 seconds in the High Court, where the High Court ruled, no, you're not a statutory body, so therefore you're not entitled to the embargo. But on the same procedure, you or I can't apply for, say, the minutes of a national cabinet, because it's a corporation. It's not a statutory body. And that's where we find ourselves today. So, having gone through all of that process, what's the remedy?
That is one of the big questions that have kept coming up here. People are asking, what do we do? How do we deal with this? Okay.
To explain that, I need to go take a pretty deep dive into history.
Okay.
So here we go, people. We're going back to 1100, and this was when King Richard was. That's leading up to the Magna Carta. He was going over to the Holy Land to return control of the Holy Land into Christian hands.
Yeah.
And he requested of the land barons, each of the really big land holders in England had their own armies. So Richard asked the land barons to provide him with some of their armed forces to actually go over to the Holy Land, which they did. And as for them doing that, Richard then allocated them additional crown land. So he was successful in controlling the Holy Land. So the Holy Land for 200 years was in the hands of Christians, not as it is today. Unfortunately, on the way back from the Holy Land, he was shot through his helmet through an eye, which obviously entered his brain and killed him. So that made his younger brother John then the King of England. Now, King John was the same King John of Sherwood Forest, who was taxing the people, and Robin Hood was stealing it back and giving it back to the people. So what occurred in and around that 1201, 2 and 3 is exactly what is happening to us today, but in a obviously different area. King John was taking the land off the land barons for himself. Well, I'm not saying that the governments are doing that at this time, they are still affecting our rights and privileges to own our home by taking away our title documents. So that's the linkage.
Yeah.
The barons then waged war on King John from 1203 to 1215, culminating in John being forced to actually sign the Magna Carta.
Yeah.
Now, back then, there was no Windsor Castle, no Buckingham Palace. The king or the queen actually lived in the Tower of London. So the barons' armies actually captured the Tower of London.
Right.
Took them 13 years to defeat King John's army, and the ultimate to him was sign the Magna Carta or we'll take your head off.
Yeah.
So section 61 in the Magna Carta gives 25 barons right of veto over the sovereign. And that still stands today. So the power, the absolute sovereignty that up to King John held, right, is now held in the House of Commons. And the reason for explaining all of that history so people understand it is that we are going to go to the House of Commons and request that the House of Commons actually uphold their act of Queen Victoria's Act of 2000. I'll get it right soon. 1900, creating the Commonwealth, and the actual Constitution itself actually has, in the first 9 sections of it, is the English Empowering Act to create the Commonwealth. So Whitlam, in 73, when he removed the word Commonwealth out of all legislation, offended Section 5 of that English Act.
Right.
And Bob Hawke, in 86, when he had created the Australia Act, right, failed to comply with the requirements of Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth, and that is that if it offended the Australian Constitution, which it did, affect Section 2, that the sovereign that is actually referred to in the Commonwealth of Australia Constitution is the sovereign of Great Britain. So both of them have actually offended the original Empowering Act that created the Commonwealth of Australia. So we're not asking the House of Commons to alter the Australian Constitution in any way at all. We are requiring them to enforce its actual application. So I've spoken to the petitions office in the House of Commons twice, and they have advised me that a petition with 40,000 signatures has to be recognised and read in the House of Commons. A petition with 100,000 signatures has to be actually debated on the floor of the House of Commons.
Mm.
So what we're asking the wording is that King Charles III's ministers assembled in the House of Commons to bring on documentation empowering King Charles III to declare the Governor-General's position vacant and the governors of all of the states and the judges are appointed under Part 3 of the Constitution to be declared vacant, and that any person who has sworn allegiance to the false Queen of England or now King Charles are ineligible to stand for public office.
Right.
So what the effect of that is that there will have to be new federal elections, and on a rotational basis, each state will be required to hold a new election. But all of the existing members of the states or the federal government, because they have sworn allegiance or affirmed allegiance to the false Queen of England, are ineligible to stand. That's
And
the remedy.
will that mean they'll never be able to stand again?
No, that's correct. Yes, they will not. Well, see, Section 44 of the Australian Constitution forbids them to swear allegiance to a foreign entity.
Yeah. That's what I thought.
Yes. So that's the process today. I've spent a month and a half in Western Australia with Rod Cullerton, and I've spent 4 months in South Australia.
And I'm assuming that it includes former people like Rod Cullerton. He won't be able to sit again either, will he?
No, because neither he nor I swore allegiance to the Queen of Australia.
Yeah. Okay.
We were aware, and when I was actually in the Senate, we had a lovely Senate clerk, Harry Evans, who was as pure as the driven snow. And to each of us, he handed us the actual pledge that is actually in the Constitution. Right. That I swore allegiance to Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth of Great Britain.
Right. So you
and
guys,
so did Rod.
Nice.
Hmm.
Are you aware of anyone else in Parliament having done that?
No.
Wow.
No.
So, is this petition available on your website? I'm guessing you download the petition and signature sheet here. It seems to be available on your website. I'll just
That's correct.
That up. So, the link is in the description, people, for the website. It's thesilentmajority.org.au. And that petition is right here. As soon as you load in the page, nice and easy, just scroll down a little bit and it's right there.
Yes. So, and what I ask is people, when they're printing out the petition, the signature part of it, that they also print the covering letter so that anyone can read through it, so they really understand why we're going to the House of Commons, because it is the House of Commons that holds the power, right, to actually affect the remedy.
Rightio.
And the other thing that I also have that will, as soon as I can get the actual artwork and everything done on it. I have a certified modern English translation of the Magna Carta. And when you actually read the entire document itself, and I know your people definitely will, they will understand that not only was the Magna Carta signed to remedy King John from taking land that was accredited to the barons, but it is day-to-day issues, and it is the Magna Carta that grants us the right of trial by jury of our peers.
So that gets rid of the whole
yes,
Star Chamber scenario of magistrates' courts and
of
such.
Magistrates. Yes, exactly. Yeah.
Right.
So that's where we are today. I'm back now in Melbourne, but that's for a conference on the World Health Organization, attempting a power grab that currently the World Health Organization has to be invited by a nation to come in to assist during a pandemic. Their alterations to their constitution empowers them to force nations to comply with the dictates of the pandemics.
Yeah.
So,
so just to make sure we're nice and clear on this, the UN have altered their constitution to give them powers to just march on in here without anybody saying anything over here.
Correct. The moment a pandemic is declared, right, then they have the right to enter any nation.
And who declares pandemics?
The WHO, World Health Organization.
Yeah. Awesome.
Yes. And the other thing that just want to, or two things. One is the managed retreat. Managed retreat, that is part of their 15-minute or smart cities.
Yeah. And
the real impact on each and every one of us, and if you take the word smart, S-M-A-R-T, right? The S is surveillance, the M is monitoring, the A is analysis, the R is reporting, and T is the technology to do all of the above. That's what smart cities are about.
Yeah.
You are impounded within that area, right? You're surveilled, you're monitored, you're analysed. We will each be given a score, a social score, and if they get away with their digital currency, as we've seen, that can be just switched off like that. So
apparently our Rumble channels have just died. What's happened here? Just give me a second to have a quick look.
yes. Magistrate. And if you...
It says it's live.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yes, so...
well, I'm just checking these channels because people are saying that they're frozen. The North Queensland Freedom Network seems to be functioning.
Yeah.
I'll just have a quick look at the Cafe Locked Out one. It also says live.
Yes, so...
and it's still running too. So I'm not sure what's happening there. From this end, everything's still running, guys. I'm not
Mhm.
sure. Yeah, Rumble is still live. Yeah. So I'm not sure. Yeah, Jake's one there. He's got no issues. So I'm not sure what's happened. It might be something on people's ends there because everything's functioning here. Sorry, Len.
Okay,
Continue.
so over to you, Batty, for questions. I'm sure there's a string of them.
Wow, I've been starring a few that sort of stood out. So we'll start at the top here. Is there any way to stop this corruption? So obviously, I think we kind of answered that there with the.
Yes.
So currently, the petition is our best bet, and hopefully that'll come through.
Yes.
So what do we do? Sell our houses, please. How do we protect ourselves? So I don't think selling your house is possibly the best idea at this particular juncture in time.
No. Because in actuality, I have here the Queensland government's. I'll go to the old one. Where's the old one, please? I've got markers in it, but in the section referring to 262. Bad when you actually remember the
Oh shit! Sorry.
the pages.
Which one is this one?
This is the land, explosives, and other legislative amendments. I'm looking for the section. Anyhow, I know verbatim. It's part 3 of the Act, where they state that Section 1 says that a certificate of title is no longer an instrument, and that actually has the effect of cancelling. Just bear with me. I'll have to find it.
I'm having a bit of a flashback from the first video. Man, these flies just keep bashing into this light. It's driving me nuts. It's like the first time I've ever had flies stuck in here. Oh.
No, that's too far through.
Let's have a look. Is it 247? Part 12, subsection 2, definition for the subdivision certifies for title cease to be instruments. Certificates of title cease to be instruments. Is that it?
Instruments. That's it. That's
15?
it. You've got it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So immediately underneath that, no, it's like immediately under it, the next line.
Oh, where we were.
Yes.
Yep. So this part here.
Yep. Then and to remove all doubt, just read that section.
Sorry, where am I? In this section, grant mineral mining. I'm not seeing to remove all doubt.
Well, that's where it should be. What page number are you on there?
Page 31.
31.
Page 31. Or are we talking about section 215, certificates of title cease to be instruments?
Yeah, that's correct.
Cool.
Yes.
I was like, all right, so I'm going to just scroll down to that. Yeah, that was a screenshot I grabbed for the purpose of the video.
Oh, right. Okay.
I was just going, where's the screenshot? That'll be my cheat way to find it.
Yeah.
156. Jesus. I'm just going to bring that screen up. It's going to be a lot easier.
Yeah.
Stop. Let's present this screen. It'll be a lot quicker and easier than bloody doing it the other way. So we got this bit here.
Yep, that's
All right.
yes.
So certificates of title cease to be instruments on the consensment. Certificate
Commencement
of
of
title.
the act. Yep.
Yeah, on the commencement, a certificate of title A ceases to be an instrument under this act, and B ceases to be evidence, conclusive or otherwise, of the indefeasible title for the
Title.
lot for which it was issued.
Issue.
To remove any doubt, it is declared that subsection 1 does not affect A, the indefensible title for the lot for which
Indefeasible.
the indefeasible title for the lot for which the certificate of title was issued, or B, any interest in the lot for which the certificate of title was issued.
Yeah. So in one hand, they're saying to the people of Queensland that your certificates of title are no longer a legal document to prove that you own your property, but trust us, to remove any doubt, you still have the rights and privileges of being an owner. So what I say to people is,
including paying your rates and all the other taxes and
yeah, that's a decision that the people have to make themselves. But I've lost my train of thought.
Sorry.
Yeah, on one hand, they're saying you now have no documents, but believe us, you still have all the rights and privileges of owning your property. Well, I say to the Queensland people, and I used to do this myself, I always used to have my front door key on my ignition key, and I've since separated them, and because the key that fits the lock on your front door is the only positive proof that you own the property.
Right.
Yeah.
So why separate it from your car keys though?
Because if anyone breaks into your vehicle and you've got a spare set of keys or that in the vehicle, which a lot of us do, or even worse, on your phones, if you lose your phone, don't have anything that links any other person to yourself, like family or things like that. It's a security risk, because if they can get into your phone, I know for years I never had a PIN on my phone. It was just a swipe and it was open. And a lot of other people are the same. But
very dangerous.
Yes. So secure the key to your front door exactly the same way you used to secure your actual title documents. And if you do have title documents, whatever you do, continue to protect them, because once this process is finished and the laws that all of the states have passed are revoked, right, your title documents, even if they are just a certified copy that Queensland used to put out, mind you, they used to charge us $80 for them, will again become a document of proof of ownership.
All right. So how is this a part of the Futures Fund then?
So the futures, all of that will be revoked. The contracts. See, the interesting thing, Batty, is that under the Westminster system, a current government cannot actually bind any subsequent government, because on the writ that the Premier requests of the governor to prorogue the Parliament and bring on an election, right? The governor has a start date on that, and the start date is the first day of sitting of the new parliament. It used to be 3 years. In Queensland, it's now 4 years later. That parliament has no further power to govern.
Mm.
So an incoming government could and should revoke any bill or any act of parliament that a previous government has passed and affected, like these acts.
I don't think that's ever happened, though, has it? They just seem
No,
to keep stacking new ones on top.
on top of the old ones. Yes.
Yeah.
Well, that won't be the case from now on.
Yeah, I hope not.
Because,
It's
yeah, Batty, it's people like yourself that go to the situation of helping people to understand how we are being governed. The government's greatest asset is our lack of knowledge.
ignorance is not bliss.
No, it certainly is not. Yeah. So anyhow, over to questions. Oh, well, can I just say to people, when they do download the signature page and the covering letter, feel free for them to actually get other people to get signatures within their groups. But whoever is actually handing them out, can they please just to get the person's name, their phone number, and their email, so that we collectively can actually keep in touch with people, A, to encourage them, and B, to let them know how it's progressing, which is equally as important.
Mm. Yeah, don't just sign and forget. Maintain, keep active. So
Yes.
Karen says she lives in a caravan, paid cash, and has a paper receipt. Is she safe? Well, my first thought was your caravan's safe, but where can you park it?
Yes. Yeah. Well, no. Well, obviously she owns the property that the van is on.
Mm.
Yes. So she has all the rights and privileges, and that cannot be taken away. All right. What we are fighting for is to actually have in our hand documentation that proves we own the property that we're living on. And it should never have been removed.
Mm. Right, Magpie, we own our homes outright. I don't understand how they can be taken from us.
The homes cannot be, right?
The land.
What has been taken away from them is the ability with a legal document to prove they own it.
Mm.
Which is equally, see, the actual title itself that was issued originally for that lot is actually property. In as much as your land is and your home is property, the physical document is your property. And the government has no right whatsoever to think that they have the power or the jurisdiction to cancel it. They don't.
They're just using force in this case.
That's correct. Yes. And they're bully boys.
Hmm. So have these changes occurred unlawfully, and what is the purpose? I think we kind of answered that as the thing unfolded, that yes, it is all unlawful. And just to further that, so fundamentally, are we basically from the point that Gough Whitlam changed shit in 73, everything 73 forward is 100% bullshit and is going to end up in a scrap heap?
Void. Yes.
Null and void. And does
null
this
and void.
At that point, any law made in excess of the law is null and void, and any citizen
There is no law. Yes.
Yeah. Who said that again? I've gone blank. Fuck it. Oh.
Me.
Yeah, there was a Chief Justice. I think it was back in It was, back in the day.
Yeah.
It was like back in the 40s or something. The Chief Justice said that. I think I got it from one of the Know Your Rights things.
In actuality, it's in the notes to Section 5 of the Constitution. I'll just see if I can quickly find it. I haven't got my little cheat sheet. Here we are. Right. My goodness me. I'm in the right area. I'm just not on. No, that's 6. There's a particular section in the notes, and all laws, right? A law in excess of the authority conferred by the Constitution is no law. It is wholly void and inoperative. It confers no rights. It imposes no duty or affords no protection. I'll just read it again. A law in excess of the authority conferred by the Constitution is no law. It's wholly void and inoperative. It confers no rights. It imposes no duties, and it affords no protection.
Rightio.
Then it goes on. To be valid and binding, they must be within the division of the jurisdiction, mapped out and delimited in express terms. Now, what that means, it's saying you can't take a word from a section, say section 100, which is the water power, and say, oh, well, that actually refers, that's what it means in section 5.
Yeah.
What it's saying to be valid and binding, they must be within the domain of jurisdiction, mapped out. In other words, it's got to be there very, very clearly, and delimited in expressed terms. So the judges can't say, well, I think that section means. What the words that are in the section are exactly what it means and nothing else. What is not so granted, what is not granted to the Parliament of the Commonwealth is denied of it. So the Constitution is a document of restriction.
Yeah, prevents the government from
from just being
doing whatever how they want.
Yeah, which is what they've been doing here in Queensland.
Anyway. Yeah.
Yes.
Or nationwide. Yeah. Nationwide.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
So Deb has some concerns that the British Parliament and House of Commons is also corrupt. That may be the case, but I guess the people of Britain have got to sort of do their own little war there, enacting the same laws in a sense.
Well, what we have been told, that's Rod and myself, it is that the House of Commons will accept the petition because, see, we're not. What I've been quoting from is my constitution, the red one, right?
Yep.
And as you can see with all of the notes and everything on it, it's pretty well used. And where was I going with that? We're not asking the House of Commons to alter any part of the Constitution or any Australian law. what we're asking them to do is to, and I'll just hold it up so people can see, where my right hand is, that is the actual Empowering Act, the English Empowering Act, right? And it states very, very clearly in here.
Can you just show that again, just quickly, so that people can see? Now that I figured out which button to push.
Whoops. There you are.
Yeah.
That's my apologies. That's the start. Trying to just lift it up, and then it continues on that side where my fingers are there.
Yeah.
That's actually the English Act, and it actually states on the top of it, the Commonwealth of Australia Constitution Act 63 and 64 Vic, which means Victoria, an act to constitute the Commonwealth of Australia. So the actual English Act that empowered the Commonwealth into existence is part of our Constitution. So, and the sections that Hawke actually offended is Section 2 of that English Act. The provision may be cited as the Constitution of the Commonwealth Act. The provision of this Act referring to the Queen shall extend to Her Majesty's heirs and successors in the sovereignty of the United Kingdom, not the Queen of Australia. And then when Whitlam removed the word Commonwealth, right, offends Section 5. This Act and all laws made by the Parliament of the Commonwealth under the Constitution shall be binding on the courts, judges and people of every state and every part of the Commonwealth, notwithstanding anything in the laws of any state. So when Hawke in 86 had the Queen of Australia actually created, that offends that section 5. So what we're asking them to do is to actually uphold their act.
Yep. Follow your own laws, which is something I've noticed, when going out on country with some of the tribes, they've gone out and gone through a bunch of the stuff, and it's just like, look, we're just asking, the governments to look at their own laws and enforce their own laws.
Correct. Yes. Yeah, absolutely. So
is it true only independents can be elected to Parliament? So I'm guessing this is the whole thing. There's no mention of parties in the Constitution.
That is absolutely correct. And more so on top of that. So every member of Parliament in the House of Representatives is required to go back to the people in their electorate and find out from them whether they support or oppose what is being promoted as a bill at that stage. Now, the Senate is actually structured the way it is so that there is equal representation for each state. The House of Representatives is actually structured on, it used to be roughly 75,000 people created an electorate. So in in actuality, if New South Wales and Victoria, the members themselves, forget the parties. See, this is how the actual constitution is written. If New South Wales members of the House of Reps and Victorian members of the House of Representatives voted as a bloc, they would outvote every other state. So to balance that, the Senate then is placed over the House of Representatives to balance that out, because then each state has an equal number of senators. That's why there's 12 senators for each state. A Senate period is 2 terms of the House of Representatives. So that's so the members of the Senate, unless there is a double dissolution, right, only half of the senators are up for election each House of Representative term. So that's the balance. So yes, the House of Representative is based on the numerical numbers within the states, and the balance against that is that the Senate, Tasmania has 12 senators with a population, I think, of about 1.5 million.
Right.
The territories only have 2 senators, so the Northern Territory and the Australian Capital Territory, they only have 2 senators, but their term is only 3 years. So they come up for election every federal election. So I hope that clarifies. Yeah.
Rod said they already rewrote the Constitution. Now, you pulled up the red one. There's a green one getting around. Let's get to the bottom of that, because it seems I've seen a bit of debate over, what is the valid Constitution?
The Constitution has been, I think, altered in 3 occasions. The most memorable one was 1968, when the section that was in the Constitution, and the reason that it was there, the Indigenous people of Australia, the Aboriginals, were not counted in the census. So therefore, in the technical legal way, the government could not take taxes from us and appropriate them to the Indigenous people. So the section was put in the Constitution that the government of the day was authorised to make laws based on race for the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people. What should have happened in 1968 was that entire section of the Constitution should have been removed.
Right.
But it wasn't. The part referring to the government can make laws based on race was left in there very skillfully, and of course we all fell for it. Voted for the Indigenous, the Aboriginal people to be counted in the referendum, right? Therefore, that entire race-based section should have been removed in its entirety. Australia is the only nation in the world that actually has in their constitution the ability to make laws based on race.
Wow. There you go.
Yeah. So yes, the Constitution has been altered. I think there's been 28 referendums, and only 4 of them have been successful. John Howard, and I'll sit to be corrected, I'm pretty sure it was in 98, proposed 28 alterations to the Constitution to make reference to the Prime Minister, the opposition, a government and an opposition. Because the question is correct. There is no provision in the Constitution. Well, there is provision in the Constitution for administration of the Commonwealth, but administration of the Commonwealth by the Governor-General, who is empowered to select from the eligible voting public members to advise him on the administration of the departments of the federal government.
All right, I think I got my head around that.
Yeah. So
ask me questions if you didn't. I'm trying to catch up through all the comments. So if anybody's got questions, now's the time to start punching them in. I'm trying to find them through here. Len, please pass this on to Malcolm Roberts and Pauline Hanson to get the word out and get those signatures. I do believe that's why Rod Culleton was kicked out of One Nation, was for trying to bring this to the forefront.
Yes.
So,
that's right.
Sorry, don't think that Pauline Hanson and Malcolm Roberts are going to bring this up. I guarantee you they won't.
No.
They
and it has to stay non-political.
Yeah.
Yes.
Len, correct me if I'm wrong. Does LZOT no mean location of title?
Well, that sure. One, I'm not sure.
I don't know what you mean by that one, Marie. You might have to clarify what LZOT is. Is there some symbol supposed to come up there and it's just put ZO in there instead? I'm not sure. Just ask that question again if you could. Thanks. Kathy DeVrend. I've owned my home for 26 years and have paper deeds to prove it. If I sell and buy another house, would it be a mistake at this stage?
Well, no, it wouldn't be a mistake if there is an advantage for her in doing that. But 2 things. One, don't hand the title in under any circumstances whatsoever. And in doing that, in purchasing a new new property, well, you are purchasing a problem. You are not going to get any documentation to prove that you own it. Whereas what you have in your hand is actual proof that you own the property that you reside in. So you need to balance whether the benefits are big, like if the house is obviously getting older, you may not be able to physically do the repairs yourself. Yes, it may be a benefit to move into a smaller property, right? But be aware that in doing that, you will not have any legal document that will prove that you own it. You'll still have the rights and privileges, as the Queensland legislation says. It's just that you do not physically have a legal document to prove you own it. And your rates notice, your electricity notice, your actual contract that you sign to purchase it is not a legal document of proof of ownership.
So maybe break this down for Damien, because we just happened to stop where I was holding this question. So I own my house in Queensland. Where do I stand?
You own it?
Like potentially in the living room right now, but that's just a jovial answer.
Yes, he owns it. Nothing affects his right of ownership and occupation. But if there were to ever be a court case arguing over who the ownership is, you have no document to prove you do.
Hmm.
That's where the problem arises.
I only have photocopies of my titles. Will this pass as proof?
No,
I didn't think so.
no, even the photos are void, according to the government. Hold on to them because when this is all reversed and the acts that the Queensland government have passed are repealed, then even your photo then becomes legal proof.
Damien, I think we'll come back to this one. I'm just going to star that one because that's going to lead us into our next conversation, I think. How am I feeling? Pretty shit, but it's all right. I'll live. This is a matter for the people, not the parliament. Is this correct? I think definitely it's it affects everyone. Like
Yeah.
Len said, I'm absolutely astounded that any politician would sign this off because it's their own death sentence to themselves, their families. It's fucking madness. Sorry for the extremity, but
yes,
absolute madness. You know?
It really questions their ability to make a sound judgment based on fact.
Well, that's it.
And I'd better be careful.
Well, given that, you know, the basic protocol of all life, and I've been through this on the channel a few times, you know, whether you're the most simplest form of life you can think of to, you know, apparently we're the most complex, but that's another story. We'll debate that one on a more philosophical nature at another time. But that priority is survival, you know, the survival of
Correct.
oneself, and the survival of your one species, you know.
Of your family.
Exactly. So this goes against basic survival, and to me would constitute as insanity.
Correct.
Wow, how disappointing one nation won't deal with this issue. Is it not important enough? Far out. I think looking after themselves and maintaining their own survival within the political realm was of a higher importance to them. We'll have to see if we can get Rod Cullerton in to discuss that a little bit further, because only he knows what really happened that day.
Correct. Well, I can give you a very, very brief overview of it. The leader of the Liberal Party of the day, in referring the matter to the High Court, erred at law, because both the Constitution and Odge's rules of the Senate clearly state that the only entity that can assess a person's not ability but their standing is the Senate itself. Now, the interesting thing is, and this is very, very little known about it, that down in the basement of the Senate, there are two perfectly functional, lockable cells. Because the Senate itself actually sits over the High Court of Australia. Right. And they have, at the entry into the Senate, inside the Senate doors, there is a bar that can, when it is swung over, right, puts a person who's brought before the Senate to be in the dock. And if the Senate itself, sitting as a jury of 76, sentences a person to be incarcerated, there is no higher entity within the Commonwealth of Australia that can appeal it.
Wow. And again, I've never seen them exercise that power.
No, I've been on the wrong side once because of a member of my staff doing the wrong thing, and I'm not naming them because they know. Not a nice place to be.
Yeah, I can imagine. So Damien here is going to bring this in, and somebody else asked another question. Did we get to council yet? No, we didn't, and no time like the present. So if I don't own it, can I stop paying council rates? Dangerous territory, and I certainly wouldn't consider anything we say here to be legal advice.
No, it certainly is not. The most I can say to people, and again, this is based on law, right, that your rates notice is an invitation to contract, right? You have the right to contract or not to contract. What I say to people is pay the actual services, whatever they're asking there. And if you want to challenge the remainder of the rates notice, right, then there is a term at law of a contract of adhesion, ADHESION. A contract of adhesion is where one party in the contract makes all of the decisions, determines all of the fees to the exclusion of the other. So the council determines what the rates are going to be, totally excluding you having any negotiation with them as to what those rates should be. And at law, a contract of adhesion is unenforceable. Now, I have a warning for anyone. Be very, very careful going down that track. You can be absolutely right, but it doesn't mean to say you are going to succeed. If a group of people, an entity that had property that was rateable, and that group wanted to challenge the rates part of it, not the cost of the services, is a contract of adhesion. That would be the only way to actually do it. Do not try and set out by yourself, or I would suggest that you do not set out by yourself to challenge the councils, because you'll find that they're backed up by the state government and they have deeper pockets than you do.
Mm.
But that's the facts.
Mm.
Do with them what you may.
So choose your battles wisely.
Correct. Yes. Fight the ones that you can win.
Yeah. Was that all you wanted to share with us about council? I know you wanted to talk a bit about council.
That's as far as I would go.
Mm. Yeah. No worries. More questions.
Now, if you wanted to actually go one step further and say talk about the police force and the issuing of fines through a police officer, whether it's a statutory fine or what, The Queensland Police Force is a corporation, and the Corporations Act Queensland clearly states within the sections of the Act that a corporation shall not place a burden or a levy on a private person or award a fine or a tax on a private person. Then the Act itself then determines who a private person is, and a private person is not the Commonwealth Government, is not the state government, is not a local council or an entity of all of the above. So, technically speaking, in the lawful sense, a police officer cannot place a fine on you because he is an employee of a corporation, and a corporation can only interact with another corporation.
So Martin's come out here, and I like the way that he started with question. That helps me find questions. So if people are asking questions, follow Martin's lead here. That'll make my life a bit easier, especially since the head's a little bit stuffy. Len, where the House of Commons fails to deliver the remedy, will the Scottish barons honour their power over the House? If not, where to then?
In actuality, I don't want to disclose that, but we have an assurance. If the House of, or we'll start with King Charles. If he was not to oblige a power from the House of Commons to remove the Governor-General and the governors, Plan B is there.
Good to know.
Yes.
We'll see how this cookie crumbles then.
Yeah. And has been what's the wording I'm looking for? Has been expressed by Plan B in the affirmative.
Rightio. Is this how the banks are on-selling mortgages to other banks / fund managers and then trying to kick farmers off their land? Yes,
there's a very good example of that with Rod Cullerton.
Just a minute.
And there's a very good example with Rod Cullerton and the grain grower in Western Australia, where the original mortgagee or mortgagor, had on-sold the debt to, of all people, Bendigo Bank. And Bendigo Bank decided that due to the price of wheat, that the farmer owed more than he had equity in that property, and tried to seize the property. What Rod was able to do was prove that the farmer's name only was on the actual title document, and therefore, at the end of the day, after 4 hours of arguing, the bailiffs, all of the police who were there illegally, and the representatives of Bendigo Bank all left with their tails between their legs. So, yes, part of the problem is the original mortgage lender on-sells the contract, and the purchaser of that debt then, without standing, attempts to step in and take over the property. The same thing applies with a bankruptcy. The Bankruptcy Act is a Commonwealth Government Act, and it is only a judge of the federal court or above that can actually issue a sequestrian note against a person's asset. The registrar or a magistrate have no power whatsoever to place a person in bankruptcy. And that is backed up by Justice Kirby. I can't tell you off the top of my head the case, but his quote was that an entity, so read a bank, writing in the mortgage document that they have the right to appoint a receiver. Okay, they do not. As Kirby stated, an entity cannot, by preambulation, in other words or speak, right, itself into constitutionality. So what he's saying very, very clearly, that the Federal Bankruptcy Act states very clearly that only a federal judge or above, so the Federal Appeals Court or the High Court itself, right, are the only ones who can place a person in bankruptcy.
There you go. Birth certificates have the seal of the Commonwealth on them. Mostly us older folk. So why do we need to get them certified before they will accept them as correct? Same problem. Is that because they and the sentence got... Oh, because they are the Parliament of the Commonwealth of Australia.
We're getting into an area of...
a little bit outside the field of what we're talking about today.
Well, yes and no. All I can say to people, and again, as you so aptly quoted before, we are not providing legal advice. There are advantages for a person to get a copy of the registration of their birth.
A live birth extract? Well, not the extract. I'd like live birth, the proof that you actually are alive and not a dead entity.
Well, it's more than that. We are at birth granted by our parents our Christian names. That is who we are. I am Leonard William, a live, breathing, blood pumping human being with the ability to determine right and wrong. Okay? There are distinct advantages in actually going back to the actual physical document that is filled out by either the attending doctor or midwife and the nurse and get a copy of that. Yes, you're correct. There is a spot there for them to tick whether it is a live birth or a deceased birth. And that's all I will say at this moment.
Len, is the government ignoring this, not letting us know because they don't want us to know? Well, I think we've kind of hammered that point home a few times, that ignorance,
yes,
not
absolutely.
Their biggest controlling point is that you don't know what's going on.
Yes.
So, yeah, most certainly. All my money is in bricks and mortar. It's my retirement package as I don't have much in super. What should we as a family do? We are thinking of moving to Thailand as my kids are half Thai and we can relocate. Is this a wise decision? What are your thoughts?
I do know of people who have done that quite successfully. That's the only people who can make that decision. That couple that are in that situation.
Yep, definitely.
The costs of living are definitely an advantage, and I assume that one of the partners in the whether it's a marriage or an agreement, sounds like one is Thai. That would alleviate the problem that a non-Thai person cannot individually wholly own property. Has to be in conjunction with a natural-born Thai person.
All right, let's go through, see if we can find. Has anybody been nice and put the word question in front of it? You've got a question mark, that helps. Is that about police fines only in Queensland? I'd say that'd be fines across all Australia that we were talking about earlier.
That's correct. They are all. Yeah. Yes. I'll just add a little bit to that. If you are going to challenge their ability as being employees of a corporation, make sure that you have the actual full extract from ASIC, the Australian Securities and Investment Commission, of the police force, with the officer who is authorised in that corporation to interact with ASIC. You pay the $19 for the extract and get the registration on a ASIC letterhead, and then you go to which particular state it is with the Corporations Act that sets out very, very clearly that a corporation, or the Corporation Act, in being administered so as not to place a burden or levy on a private person, or a fine or a tax. And you take that extract out, attach it to the registration that the police force is a corporation, and serve it on them and tell them to go away.
He confirmed his wife is Thai.
Yep.
Listening from Thailand. There you go. Jan Duffy is in Thailand right now. Great place to retire, she reckons.
Good.
All right.
Good to know that you're going international.
So, yeah, there's a lady here from Scotland who was just giving us the weather update. She reckoned it was 20. G'day, Susan, by the way. Always good to see Susan popping in all the way from Scotland, considering the time zone differences. Sometimes she's up at like ridiculous times in the morning to watch the show, which is really good. But yeah, apparently it's 20, and what wonderful weather by Scottish standards. 20 is about as cold as I'd ever want to see it myself, but that's just me. Martin did the good thing, put the word question in front of it again. Are councils corporations? If so, does that remove their ability to issue fines, for example, parking tickets?
Yes. Yes, they are corporations. Yes, it does remove their ability to place a fine or a tax.
I mean, in fact, they've got CEOs, kind of says it all, doesn't it?
No, they are registered as corporations.
There you go. Len, the lot number is the location of title, not the actual plot of land.
No, in actuality, and this is set out very, very clearly by Queen Victoria when dividing New South Wales into Queensland and New South Wales. It is only the governor of the state, not the parliament, that is empowered to administer land of the Crown, and the exact wording is the governor has authority and full power to disseminate land of the Crown. It has to be surveyed and appointed a lot number. So the lot number refers to both the survey and the physical property of the soil.
There you go. Well, I'm not seeing a great many.
Well, I was about to say, Batty.
Oh, no,
I drove from Canberra to Melbourne today.
So you're pretty
well, prior to that, I'd done from Sydney to Mareeba and back twice. So
it was only 2 weeks ago you were here in Townsville. So man,
well, that was on the way up. Yes. Yes.
And I'm dying, so I think we might have to call it a show for
Yeah.
the time being and get you back in at some other stage to answer some more questions because some
Well,
people
yes. There is another entity which we won't discuss tonight, but all of the regulations and you in Townsville are copying this, as is so everyone else throughout the whole of Australia. An entity called ICLEI, ICLEI, International Coalition of Local Environment Initiative. They are an entity, another IT, that is domiciled in Bonn in Germany, and they are responsible for taking your car parks away, reducing 4-lane roads to 2 lanes with 3 meters of push bike lanes in them, and a lot worse. So I'll come back another night for you.
Yep.
And in that one, I'll actually send the PowerPoint through to you, and we will step through all of the sections of how ICLEI is dominating the regulations on everything that we do in modern societies.
I mean, it says local governments for sustainability. I mean, there's that word, sustainability.
Yeah.
It's almost as good as, when you see the word smart, just
it makes you. Well, they are also part of the smart cities, the 15-minute cities. And that's all coming through from Germany through the local government association of Queensland.
There you go. But we'll have more on that another day, sometime in the near future. So thanks heaps for coming on, Len. Much appreciated, mate. And it looks like everybody seems pretty happy with what's happened so far, and I'm sure there's a few people out there whose heads are no doubt swelling as much as mine, but for a different reason.
Yeah, and can I just I apologise for having to actually discuss this. If people could go to the website, a $25 donation gets me approximately 100 kilometres on the road, and also obviously a $50 one gets me 200. In the last 2 weeks, I've travelled over 6,000 K just
Wow.
work out the fuel bill.
That's huge. That's
Yeah.
huge.
So I do need support
via the silent majority. The link is in the description to get onto Len to help him out with his amazing work. And you can tell, Stu, I barely scratched the surface of the knowledge that you've gained there, Len. So, you know, you're a valuable asset to the freedom fighting.
Yes. Okay. So God bless and thank you for your support, yourself and your channel. And till we meet again, yes.
Looking forward
God's
to it,
blessings. Thank you, Batty.
Thank you,
and
mate.
Recover.
I will.
And,
thanks, man.
And a nice hot toddy goes well.
Yep.
Well, thank you.
I'll have boiling hot children, no doubt, climbing all over me and snotting on me soon enough. So they're all got temperatures, and you can imagine what sleeping's like when you got two little ones, an 8-month-old and a friggin' 2.5-year-old in bed with you all night, climbing all over you, grumpy as shit because they feel the crap as you do. They're supposed to magically wave the wand and make it all go better.
Yeah. Been there, done that. That's in the dim, dark, distant past. Yeah. Okay. Thank you, everyone who's listened. Thank you for your questions. It's good because it actually brings out the information. Okay. God bless. Bye-bye.
No worries. Thanks heaps, mate. Much appreciated. We'll see you next time. Thanks heaps, everybody, for watching. Of course, you can support the channel. You know how to do it. There's all the link tree things there. There's GoFundMe's. Become a Patreon. Let me know what you'd like to see in the Patreon. What would make you want to sign up $10 a month to help support the channel and get your own special shit? Let's start getting some interaction going. And you can email me at nqfreedomnetwork@protonmail.com to give me that wonderful advice. And if you've got questions and stuff, like, don't send it to me via Facebook. I barely look at Facebook these days, or any other means. The best way to get a hold of me is through that. Of course, support all the culture artists at Cafe Lockdown. Great stuff. Len's site, silentmajority.org.au. Jump on board there and give him a hand. Great bloke, done some amazing work. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see how I'm feeling Sunday. I'm not sure what's going to transpire yet. I'm hoping to get you a fail of the week. You've probably seen there's a whole bunch of tabs opened on this stuff, so I am kind of preparing something. We'll see what happens. Well, excuse me. But until next time, same bat time, same bat channel. We'll have something more for you next week. I can't remember who have I got next week. I did book something in. And there's a couple of other ones I've got in the works as well, which will come through. So Wade from Billboard Battalion will be coming to join us next week. So look out for that one. It's going to be a corker. Until next time, do everything you can to be an awesome person, eh?